In at number 10, Joel McHale. Joel McHale garnered a decent-sized fanbase from starring in the show Community and hosting talk shows like The Soup, which was eventually transitioned into The Joel McHale Show. The show was a Netflix comedy web series that started in February of 2018 and featured Joel giving his sharp, absurdist opinion on pop culture and news from across the globe. Each episode would be developed in the week prior so that all of the content included could be topical and relevant. When it came to the cancellation of The Joel McHale Show, it had nothing to do with a controversy or issues working with Joel. Unfortunately, Netflix had ordered 6 additional episodes of the series, which were released simultaneously 2 months later. But just a month after that, they had to cancel the show. When Joel came on SiriusXM with Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, he told them that Netflix pulled the plug because they didn't like his sweaters. He then laughed off that comment and said that Netflix had trained their audience to binge watch, and they tried that with his show, but it just didn't work. Ultimately, Netflix canceled the show due to low viewership. In at number 9, Peyton Kennedy. Peyton Kennedy was the star of the show on Netflix called Everything Sucks. This was a comedy drama web series created by Ben York Jones and Michael Mohan that was meant to be a parody of teen culture in the mid-1990s. Ironically, it took place in the real-life town of Boring, Oregon, and unfortunately for the cast and crew, Netflix viewers found the show, well, boring. After just 1 season, Netflix announced that they would be canceling the show, and I'm only using Peyton's name as the placeholder for the show's cancellation, but luckily Netflix was able to fit her into a different show. Following the cancellation of this new Netflix show, Peyton went on to act in the show Grey's Anatomy as the character Betty Nelson. She only did 12 episodes with the show, but that's still 2 more than the show Everything Sucks. In at number 7, Naomi Watts. Gypsy was a psychological thriller and web series created by Lisa Rubin for Netflix and had Naomi Watts starring as Jean Holloway, a PhD in clinical psychologist based out of NYC. In the show, her character begins to overstep personal and professional boundaries as she begins to develop relationships with people close to her patients. The show had a 10-episode run on Netflix, but according to Rotten Tomatoes, it only received a 38% rating based on 40 reviews. The critics' consensus stated that Gypsy was a ludicrous plot that trudges along as it drags its talented cast with it. The show marked 2-time Oscar nominee Naomi Watts' first starring TV series role, but when it came to renew the show, Netflix ultimately passed on it. When it came down to it, Netflix had to pick between renewing the women's wrestling comedy show called Glow or picking Gypsy up again, and so they settled with continuing Glow and thus canceling Naomi Watts. In at number 6, Drew Barrymore. The show Santa Clarita Diet was one of the last things that Drew Barrymore had actually started. The show was a horror comedy web series created by Victor Fresco for Netflix. Fresco was the showrunner and executive producer alongside Barrymore. It was a single cam show that premiered in February of 2017 and generally received positive reviews. In the show, Drew's character undergoes a bizarre metamorphosis where she basically becomes a zombie that craves human flesh. Her husband and kids then basically have to help her deal with this as their mother constantly has to refrain herself from eating the neighbors. Cindy Holland, who is the head of original content at Netflix, said during a conference that when they invest into a show, they decide how much to invest based on the audience that shows up. If the audience isn't showing up, they begin to question if they should be investing more into it. In the case of Santa Clarita Diet, Holland felt that there was no viable reason to keep pumping more money into it, and thus it was cancelled. In at number 5, Britt Marling. The OA debuted in 2016, and it was really because of the hard work that Britt Marling put into it. She first rose to prominence after starring in several films that premiered at the Sundance Festival, but following that she wanted to cast herself into a show that she actually enjoyed. As a result of that desire, she wrote the series and pitched it to Netflix. With the creator of the show also taking on the lead role, it received mass praise from Netflix viewers. As the show continued into its 2nd season though, the effects, like special effects if you will, began to get bigger and bigger. And the beauty of the 1st season was that it just seemed to be fairly low budget, but the 2nd season proved just how much you can do if Netflix believes in your show. Unfortunately, the viewership though was just not there for the 2nd season, and then on top of that, network executives had decided that the show was just too big of a creative swing to attract new viewers, which is another thing that they have to always be keeping on their mind. Netflix wants people that will binge watch their content, and they want to promote TV shows that will make someone want to subscribe to the platform. Unfortunately, because Britt Marling lacked the star power and still cost them tons of money, the show was cut short. In at number 4, Hasan Minhaj. The Patriot Act with Hasan Minhaj was a comedy talk show that premiered in 2018 and ran until June 28, 2020. The show had won an Emmy, a Peabody Award, and 2 Webby Awards before Netflix canceled the series after 6 seasons. Unfortunately, Netflix realized that despite rave reviews from critics, all of their talk shows were just not doing well. Hence the reason Michelle Wolf and Joel McHale both had their shows canceled as well. In response to finding out the news, Hasan tweeted, "What a run, Patriot Act has come to an end. I got to work with the best writers, producers, researchers, and animators in the game. My 2 babies were born and grew up with the show. Thank you to Netflix and everyone who watched. Now it's time to return those screens to Best Buy." Despite Netflix believing that this was the right move, there were hundreds of comments saying that they were going to cancel their subscriptions, so who knows, maybe we will see the show coming back. #uncancel Patriot Act. In at number 10, The Simpsons. The Simpsons is without a doubt one of the biggest and longest running TV shows of all time. As a result of the show being a pivotal part of our culture, the question as to when it will arrive on Netflix has always been pondered over the years. Unfortunately though, due to Netflix and Fox cutting ties in 2017, which led to the removal of many FX shows from Netflix, this may be nothing but a pipe dream. Following the split, The Simpsons was streaming on Hulu until early 2019, although when it was announced that Disney had purchased Fox, their Disney Plus service became the new home for our favorite dysfunctional family. Although this did not stop Netflix from continuing to work with The Simpsons writers. They added the show Disenchantment, which is a Matt Groening series, so at least we get some parallel humor to enjoy. Although we wish we had The Simpsons on Netflix. In at number 8, The Mandalorian. It looks like the only Star Wars related film that will stay on Netflix is Solo, but compared to The Mandalorian, that's a big L. Especially considering that it's the only one they locked down. The Mandalorian was part of the big selling feature for Disney Plus, and after it surpassed Stranger Things in views, I can guarantee you Netflix started punching the air. It sent Star Wars back into the mainstream, and with their Baby Yoda character, it became an online sensation. Yet sadly, something that Netflix will never be able to touch. In at number 6, South Park. Very few shows compare to the longevity of The Simpsons, but South Park comes very close with its incredible takes on what's happening in the world. So far, the only thing that Netflix has is the South Park movie called Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. And in the film, the 4 boys are caught watching an R-rated movie featuring Canadians Terrence and Phillip, and are therefore believed to be corrupted. Now they must stop their parents from instigating a war-like situation, and apparently for subscribers in the UK, they can watch season 1 and seasons 18 to 21, as well as a collection of their top episodes, which include critically acclaimed episodes, fan favorites, and others chosen by the creators themselves. Unfortunately for everyone not in the UK, we'll just have to find other ways to catch up with the show. In at number 5, The Americans. The Americans is another show that has an extremely loyal fan base, and surprisingly it has done very well with critics as well. Hence the reason why the show is in high demand when it comes to streaming rights. While FX does hold on to a lot of their shows, they do tend to have some shows on other streaming services, so while The Americans isn't available to stream through Netflix, it is available on Amazon. Netflix was unable to acquire The Americans in time, and as a result, that ship had sailed. Now the show is far too big to buy. Even with the show coming to an end in 2018, Netflix had too much competition with trying to purchase the show, and because they passed early on, it's going to be difficult to ever obtain it. In at number 4, The Golden Girls. Without a doubt, Betty White has maintained her popularity long after The Golden Girls was over. While Netflix sees the appeal in Betty White as a person, they can't see the appeal in that show. Netflix is all about relating to the next generation of kids, appealing to a younger audience. So there's no way that they would ever allow The Golden Girls to be on their platform. It's only relatable to people that are now 75 plus. If they were to add the show, it would garner some initial attention, but after a while the show is just so dated that it just seems impossible to want to binge that thing. There just wouldn't be enough value in purchasing the show from its current owner. Plus it is a huge difference from any of their original content, which seems like a better place to put their money and efforts. In at number 3, Seinfeld. This one is a bit of a strange one because of the relationship that Jerry Seinfeld has with Netflix. I mean, they've given him money for comedy specials as well as running his new show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Although when it comes down to streaming Seinfeld, that's still a long ways away for Netflix. The company looked into acquiring the sitcom, but unfortunately the price was far too high. The company would need to take out a line of credit and go severely into debt just to afford the sitcom's price tag. As a result, banned. In at number 2, Game of Thrones. Without a doubt, Game of Thrones is a big moneymaker for HBO, and they will for sure just be running reruns of this show for as long as they possibly can. The series premiered on HBO in the United States on April 17, 2011, and ended on May 19, 2019 with 73 episodes broadcasted over 8 seasons. Now, with HBO having their very own streaming service, there is most definitely a clause in the contract with the show's creators that they could never take the show to any other platform, which includes the streaming giant Netflix. Although Game of Thrones would be the perfect show for Netflix, HBO has made sure to keep their creators happy enough to just never want to leave. HBO even has a no exceptions rule when it comes to Netflix, meaning in no way will they ever allow their contracted shows to move over to a competitive platform. Regardless of how many people would want to watch it through Netflix, HBO seems to know better than to allow that to happen. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, The Patriot Act. At the beginning of 2019, Netflix received a ton of backlash for taking down an episode of Hasan Minhaj's show, The Patriot Act. The episode criticized Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the government's reaction to the death of a high-profile journalist. In response to this outcry, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings responded by saying, "We're not in the truth to power business, we're in the entertainment business." Although that is a bizarre excuse considering that Netflix has produced a number of original shows and films that specifically hold truth to power. I mean, you had When They See Us, which examined the Central Park 5 case and thus changed their names to the Exonerated 5. There was also a movie called The Laundromat based on the Panama Papers, where a major data breach shows just how wealthy and powerful people hide their money. Even recently, we had the Jeffrey Epstein documentary, which is doing nothing but speaking truth to power. I don't think Netflix should shy away from that out of fear that they'll lose some cash with their Saudi Arabian audience. I mean, the episode is still available on YouTube, but it will never see the light of day on Netflix.
And at number 10, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf was quietly cut by Netflix after his ex-girlfriend FK Twigs made allegations against him that he was harmful to her both mentally and physically during their relationship. This all took place right as LaBeouf's film with Netflix, Pieces of a Woman, was set to be released on January 7th. But Netflix is taking a firm stance of support for FK Twigs and the other women who've spoken out by distancing themselves from Shia and removing his name from their awards consideration campaign. LaBeouf is due to appear alongside Vanessa Kirby in Pieces of a Woman, with the pair playing a couple who lose their first child in a home birth. The film focuses on Kirby's Martha as she grieves and tries to repair her relationship with LaBeouf's Sean and her mother. The movie so far is getting tons of award season hype, already coming out strong at the Venice Film Festival, where the lead actress scored a Best Actress award, and the film was up for Movie of the Year. And this means that Netflix knows they need to publicly cut the actor, but they want the film to do well at festivals. So for now, they're just gonna cut him from the awards nominations, and we're assuming after this they won't work with him again. And also make sure to like if you're liking the video so far. And at number 9, Steven Spielberg. The legendary director has made his firm stance against Netflix very clear, and he's outspoken that the streaming platform is ruining the movie industry. Spielberg has been outspoken about his desire to keep Netflix from taking home the big trophies at award shows. After the Oscars, he came out saying that Netflix productions aren't actual movies, and because of this, they shouldn't be considered in major categories. And he's doing whatever he can to make this the case, as he's working with the Academy to ensure all films nominated for future awards have had theatrical runs, making it impossible for the streaming service to win. However, now that Warner Bros. Has made the shocking move to have all their movies released exclusively on streaming services in the new year, this rule definitely will not be put into place. And at number 8, Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is another director firmly against Netflix and streaming services in general. According to GQ, Nolan questions the streaming-only model for failing to try and enter the theatrical area. Nolan believes that the concept of streaming movies takes away from the experience and theatrics of it all, adding that a movie will never feel as lifelike or look as good on a laptop screen, and I guess he does have a point there. For his latest film, Tenet, it will obviously not be on streaming services, only pay-per-view. The film was one of the only major releases during the coronavirus, and it might have been a mistake, as the film vastly underperformed and only brought in $29.5 million in its first 2 weeks, although it performed much better overseas. So it seems like he might be forced to change his tune about streaming services soon. And at number 6, Avatar: The Last Airbender creators. The Avatar series gained a second life when it started streaming on Netflix, but the relationship turned sour quickly, with the co-creators of the popular cartoon series cutting ties with Netflix. Producers of the original show announced their departure online, with DiMartino writing in his statement, quote, "Many of you have been asking me for updates about the Avatar live-action Netflix series. I can finally tell you that I'm no longer involved with the project. In June of this year, after 2 years of developmental work, Brian Konzenko and I made the difficult decision to leave the production," adding that the reason they left was because they were not given the creative freedom they needed to guide the show that they saw fit. Adding, quote, "Though Netflix promised to support their vision, there was no follow-through on that promise." Netflix later made a statement that they were going forward with the show without the men. Halfway, number 5, Marvel. Netflix axed Marvel's The Punisher and Jessica Jones after announcing they had already scrapped other Marvel projects that were in development with the streaming service. All the cancellations mark the end of Marvel's partnership with Netflix. However, that was the plan all along, as the public would later learn that Disney would be starting its own streaming service with Marvel projects on its roster, called Disney+. In a statement on the matter, Netflix said, quote, "We are grateful to Marvel for 5 years of our fruitful partnership and thank the passionate fans who have followed these series from the beginning." Marvel's TV head Jeff Lubb also made a statement, quote, "Our network partner may have decided they no longer want to continue telling the tales of these great characters, but you know Marvel better than that. As Matthew Murdock's dad once said, the measure of a man is not how he gets knocked to the mat, it's how he gets back up." To be continued. And it's strange in that statement he made it seem like Netflix's decision when we know they wanted their products off of Netflix to put on Disney+. And of course, after Disney Plus's launch, all Disney products were taken off the platform and will never be returning. In at number 4, Louis C.K. Louis C.K. is another actor who saw backlash from Netflix after accusations of inappropriate conduct came out against him. This came in the form of the streaming service halting the production of his second stand-up special with them. A Netflix spokesperson said, quote, "The allegations made by several women in the New York Times about Louis C.K.'s behavior are disturbing. Louis' unprofessional and inappropriate behavior with female colleagues has led us to decide not to produce a second stand-up special, as had been planned." The streaming service still has his old comedy specials up for some reason, but they definitely will not be working with him ever again. And at number 2, Johnny Depp. This one is extremely unfortunate, but Netflix very recently removed all films starring Johnny Depp from their catalog. However, there was no statement made about the removal, probably because they know there will be backlash from Johnny Depp fans. But fans noticed when they were no longer finding movies from him on the platform. It's assumed that the removal took place after Depp lost his high-profile libel case in the UK last month, with the loss for Johnny allowing news publications to call him a wife beater. Of course, related to allegations from his ex-wife Amber Heard. But Johnny Depp fans are not happy and are considering boycotting the service to show their support for the actor. One fan wrote online, quote, "Netflix has movies by Mel Gibson, Sean Penn, Amber Heard, and Kevin Spacey on there. They have some nerve removing Johnny Depp's stuff." Which is absolutely true. I really could not have said that comment better myself. And finally at number 1, the royal family. If you've seen The Crown, then you know why the royal family absolutely hates Netflix. Usually the royal family is pretty quiet about these types of things, but the 4th season, which focuses on Diana, has caused such a stir that the family has commented. The Daily Mail wrote, quote, "Friends of Prince Charles launched a blistering attack on the Crown last night, accusing producers of the hit Netflix drama of trolling on a Hollywood budget and presenting fiction as facts." Apparently those with ties to the royal family think that Netflix is exploiting the family for monetary gain, as well as presenting a twisted version of events. As a way to fight back, the family urged Netflix to add a warning before the show that stated that the show is a work of fiction. However, Netflix did not do this and claims that audiences know it's loosely based on a true story. But I get why the family is mad, because I mean, the show makes them look really bad.
At number 8, Armie Hammer. 2021 started off with an absolutely huge Hollywood scandal. The first big entertainment news story of the year followed the downfall of actor Armie Hammer after a series of DMs were leaked that exposed his life behind closed doors. An Instagram account exposed Armie after they posted dozens of screenshots that showed the actor's conversations with various women between 2016 and 2020. The messages show Armie talking about his bedroom fantasies, including fantasies of consensual non-consent and eating his partner. As a result of this scandal, Armie's career took a serious nosedive. When the scandal first broke, Armie withdrew from an upcoming film that he was supposed to star in alongside Jennifer Lopez, and he was also dropped from the cast of an upcoming Paramount Plus project about the making of The Godfather. Armie has also been dropped by his agency and his publicist as well. Because of the aftermath of this scandal and the investigations that this led to, I don't think anybody, never mind just Netflix, would be wanting to work with this actor. It will be very difficult for him to come back from all of this. At number 7, Gina Carano. Disney was hit with a minor scandal this year, and it involved one of their newer stars, Gina Carano. Known for her role in the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, Gina became a fan favorite very quickly, that is until her tweets became an issue. This whole scandal came about after Gina tweeted a controversial message saying that being a Republican was similar to being Jewish during World War II, implying that Republicans are being persecuted in a way because of their political beliefs. This tweet angered a lot of fans, but it's not the first time that the actress had made headlines concerning her offensive tweets. She's also made anti-mask posts, and she's tweeted about the suspected voter fraud during the US presidential election. The people behind the making of The Mandalorian made the decision to fire Gina as a result, and her career was pretty much tanked. Her tweets caused her to lose a job working for one of the biggest companies in the industry, and this could affect her success in getting work from other big companies like Netflix. At number 6, Hartley Sawyer. Hartley Sawyer is one actor who might never come back to Hollywood after he got exposed for his incredibly offensive tweets back in 2020. Hartley, who was best known for having played Ralph Dibny, aka the elongated man on the CW's The Flash, faced a heck of a lot of backlash when many of his past tweets were brought to light. These tweets, which span as far back as 2009, highlight Hartley's poor attempts at humor, many of them including racist, sexist, homophobic, and even violent messages. These tweets were brought to light during the Black Lives Matter movement that saw a huge jump in support last summer, and as fans dug deep into many celebrities' lives, this was one of the biggest stories of a celebrity exposure to come out during that time. As a result of these offensive tweets, Hartley was fired from his role on The Flash and has been MIA from social media since issuing an apology for his actions. Because of the reputation that he has now for being offensive, combined with the fact that he's been out of Hollywood for so long, it might be safe to assume that if he does make a comeback to the industry, he probably won't be hired by anyone like Netflix. At number 5, Lea Michele. Lea Michele was exposed last year for her bad attitude, and she hasn't made a comeback since. Former Glee star Samantha Ware called the actress out for her rudeness among other negative things, and this brought on a wave of other accusations. People started coming forward to talk about their experiences working with Lea, and some recounted some instances of bullying, aggressiveness, and diva behavior. As a result, Lea lost her sponsorship with HelloFresh. In response to the allegations made against Lea, specifically for her alleged racial microaggressions and discriminatory actions, the company issued a statement saying that they would no longer be affiliated with the actress. This was just the first instance of Lea losing work over the scandal, but because there were so many horror stories that came out about her last year, producers as well as other people in the industry might now be a little hesitant to work with her because she's gained such a public reputation of being hard to work with. Since we haven't heard much from her since getting cancelled last year, we can assume that she hasn't really found much work since then, and certainly not from big companies like Netflix, because they wouldn't want to take a chance on someone who people are still kind of upset with. At number 4, Lori Loughlin. Actress Lori Loughlin has been fired by Netflix once before, so the chances of them wanting to work with her again are pretty slim. The actress faced a lot of drama last year as she was put on trial for exchanging bribes with college admissions in order to get her daughter into a good school. After pleading guilty to the charges against her, she was sent to jail to serve a 2-month sentence. Now that she's been released, she'll be hard-pressed to find work in the industry. Since the admission scandal, she's lost work, and as I mentioned, she's been dropped from the Full House reboot on Netflix, and some sources say that she's even been blacklisted from Hollywood. Whether or not this blacklisting really stands is yet to be known, but the bottom line here is that no one wants to hire her right now, especially Netflix. Being fresh out of the scandal, as she was released from jail in late December, it'll be a while before she can start finding work again. At number 3, Thora Birch. Thora Birch was once a rising star in Hollywood. From starring in Hocus Pocus to American Beauty, she was finding a lot of success in the industry, but due to a number of reported conflicts with several Hollywood executives, Thora hasn't really been finding the same level of success that she once was. Some say that she's even been blacklisted from Hollywood. Thora isn't solely to blame for her career troubles though, as it's believed that much of this has to do with Thora's father and the conflicts that he's been involved in, and had physically threatened other actors. Thora was also fired from her project Manson Girls after her father allegedly got into an argument with production. Between 2010 and 2018, Thora reportedly only booked 1 gig, and the actress has said that much of that has to do with her bad rep in the industry. She's also said that she's angered a lot of people over the years, so that could also be a reason why she's been fired from Hollywood. She isn't finding any work from big companies like Netflix, and probably won't for the foreseeable future. At number 2, Jussie Smollett. Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett found himself in a lot of trouble for a while following the scandal and subsequent backlash he faced after he was caught making false police statements about alleged hate crimes. In January 2019, Jussie claimed to have been attacked by a group of people wearing masks who put a rope around his neck and shouted an array of slurs at him. However, after a police investigation ensued, they found that the claim was fake. It was later discovered that Jussie made the whole thing up because he was unhappy with his salary from Empire and figured that he could get more after an event like the one that he fabricated. The charges laid against him for making this false report were eventually dropped, but similar charges emerged this year and Jussie was indicted. As a result of the scandal and legal issues, Jussie was promptly fired from Empire and has struggled to make things work for him in the industry since then. Some people wanted him to be blacklisted for what happened. Since then, Jesse hasn't really found much success after the scandal, and no one is really out here trying to take a chance on him over fears that he might pull a similar stunt on them, so networks like Paramount or Netflix aren't really out here trying to work with him. And finally, at number 1, Zooey Deschanel. Even though Zooey Deschanel is known to play fun, bubbly, and happy characters on TV and in films, her real-life personality is apparently far from nice. Turns out Zooey is actually pretty mean in real life, and she's hard to work with on set. People who have worked with the actress have said that she's got a really bad attitude on set, saying that she acts very stuck up and has a big ego. Others have said that she makes large demands, throws unnecessary tantrums about literally anything, and has a reputation for delaying shoots, but won't hesitate to go off on anyone else who makes demands or delays shoots. Basically, she's got a really bad attitude, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people think that she just doesn't get cast anymore, because nobody wants to work with her. This could be a reason why networks like Netflix don't want to hire her, because they don't want to have the hassle of dealing with a celebrity who's notoriously hard to work with. At number 10, Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr had a pretty good thing going up until 2018. Prior to then, Roseanne was finding a lot of success in the Roseanne sitcom reboot on ABC and was getting ready to usher in a new season. But all of that success and hard work went out the window after the actress tweeted out an offensive tweet about Barack Obama's former senior advisor Valerie Jarrett, comparing her to an ape. As a result, Roseanne felt the wrath of Hollywood and had her show and career cancelled. Though she deleted the tweet and issued an apology for her actions, this couldn't save her career, and she's since been reportedly blacklisted from Hollywood, so networks like Netflix probably wouldn't be too jazzed about working with her. The actress tried defending her actions by claiming that she thought Valerie Jarrett was white, but that excuse didn't really go over well, and made things a little bit worse for her instead. Roseanne has also gone on to say in interviews that Hollywood shunned her because of her political beliefs. At number 9, Stacey Dash. Known for her role as Dion in the 90s film Clueless, Stacey Dash had risen to fame in the 90s, but since then she's hit rock bottom and is no longer welcome in the entertainment industry. Nowadays, the actress is known for being quite outspoken when it comes to her political views, and this is what led Hollywood to lock her out, so to speak, and she hasn't been in the acting world for quite a while. Speaking out about her take on women's rights, Black History Month, segregation, and the quote-unquote bathroom bill, the actress has proven herself to be too much for even the likes of Fox News, which she used to be a part of. With that said, she probably wouldn't be welcomed by the likes of Netflix. Stacey would often come on air of Fox News to talk about whatever issues were being discussed, but in a turn of events, Fox News let her go for having gone too far with her words, especially in reference to the abolishment of Black History Month. Some people say that her extreme beliefs are what stopped Stacey from receiving any roles, and she said that she was dropped by her agent for being too problematic. Her views on gay and trans rights, as well as her opinion on race in Hollywood, have ultimately ended her career as an actress. Now, before we continue talking about celebrities who Netflix would not want to work with, why not leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Jim Caviezel. It's not always tweets and fights that get you banned from Hollywood. The roles you play and the productions that you're part of can also take a toll on your career, and this is what happened with actor Jim Caviezel, prompting Hollywood to shut him out as a result. Coming from some minor success in the 90s, Jim's defining moment came when he played Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ film. The movie itself was a financial success, but the media tore it apart, calling it too violent and very controversial. The R-rated film caught a lot of bad press, and it was seen as anti-Semitic, and those who worked on the film had a hard time shaking that label, especially Jim. Apparently, before filming began, Mel Gibson warned Jim that he could potentially get shunned from Hollywood for this film, but he went ahead anyway, which, looking back on it now, probably wasn't the best career choice. Jim says that he has no regrets starring in the film, but he's no longer welcome in Hollywood, and as a result, probably wouldn't be hired by anyone like Netflix. At number 7, Mel Gibson. Speaking of the Passion of the Christ though, Mel Gibson is someone who is notoriously hated in Hollywood for quite a number of reasons. He's no longer considered for any Hollywood roles and only seems to make an entrance into the industry when directing, since other studios don't want to work with him. He's been the subject of a number of controversies, from that of the Passion of the Christ for being anti-Semitic, to career-damaging freakouts, driving under the influence, and a number of people coming forward to discuss Mel's racist and anti-Semitic views. Though he continues to get cancelled in Hollywood, he attempts to make a return every so often, but again, only through his own work. He's been facing controversy for decades, and no one has really forgiven him, and he remains banned in Hollywood and essentially banned from all other media networks. At number 6, Ellen. After the insane year Ellen had last year, she came out of it with a pretty tarnished reputation. Because of the allegations made against her of poor workplace environment, including bullying and racial microaggressions, very few people trust or even want to work with her anymore, and I would imagine that also includes companies like Netflix. Though she did issue some apologies for some of her actions, it didn't seem to be enough, and her actions have left a bad taste. As a result of the scandal that unfolded, Ellen lost sponsors, guests, and audience members from her own show. This pretty much shows that the industry is starting to pull away from her because no one really wants to get close to her. If she was in better standings in the industry, she could have struck a deal with Netflix to keep her career afloat, but it doesn't look like that would happen. At number 5, Marilyn Manson. Singer Marilyn Manson faced a humongous scandal this year after actress Evan Rachel Wood came forward in February this year naming Manson as the person who caused her mental, physical, and emotional distress while in a relationship. She released a statement to her Instagram calling Manson out and also saying that she was, quote, brainwashed and manipulated into submission by him. In the past, Manson has faced similar accusations, but this one from Evan was the one to end his career. As a result of this, the singer was dropped by his manager and record label, and they were also called out for having enabled him the whole time this abuse was going on, and for trying to cover these scandals up in the past. Because of all this bad press and his severely tarnished reputation, I couldn't imagine anyone in Hollywood wanting to work with him. Lately, Netflix has been doing documentaries on singers and their lives, but Manson is certainly one star that they would not want to talk about. At number 4, Chris Harrison. The Bachelor/Bachelorette is one of the hottest reality shows on the planet. The show's host, Chris Harrison, has been with the show since 2002, but his time with Bachelor Nation has come to an end after a scandal that completely ended his hosting career. After old photos resurfaced of one of the Bachelor contestants at an antebellum-themed sorority party, as well as Confederate TikToks, there was a call to seek accountability from said contestant. When asked about it in an interview, Chris went on to seemingly defend this contestant when he said, quote, "We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion. Because I've seen some stuff online, this judge, jury, executioner thing, I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Until I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak, who am I to say any of this?" End quote. People found his comments to be offensive and insensitive, saying that he was too quick to defend this contestant's actions. After all this drama, it was announced that he was leaving the show, and he's not been welcomed back. Maybe if things were different, Chris could have found a job working as a host for one of Netflix's many dating reality shows, but instead this scandal ruined his chances. At number 3, James Franco. Back in 2014, actor James Franco got into a scandal after he tried sliding into a fan's DMs, only to find out that she was actually 17 years old. This happened when James met a girl visiting New York City as an early 18th birthday present. James met her at an autograph signing outside of one of his Broadway shows. The two took pictures together and she tagged him, which obviously led to him finding her Instagram and DMing her. The two talked for a bit, and the fan even asked to see his ID to make sure it was really him. After their conversation continued, James asked for her number, her age, her relationship status, and whether or not he should have booked a hotel room for the both of them. Luckily, nothing ever ended up happening between them, but the fan ended up exposing their conversation online, and James faced mild backlash. After that and some other scandals he's been in, a lot of people don't want to work with James, and that could potentially include companies like Netflix as well. At number 2, Bella Thorne. Bella Thorne is no stranger to bad press. She's been facing backlash since she was a Disney star, and really things have just escalated since then. Because she's viewed by many as a problematic celebrity, Hollywood, specifically companies like Netflix, may be hesitant to hire her for upcoming projects just because of how people view her. In the last year or so, Bella has been in the news for a number of scandals. Bella has faced backlash for her OnlyFans scam, where she scammed her fans into paying upwards of $200 for content that they weren't happy with, and it even prompted a company policy change that affected other creators on the platform. She was also involved in some Twitter beef with her ex Tana Mongeau because she released a diss track about her, and earlier this year, Bella faced even more backlash as she publicly defended Armie Hammer and the whole scandal that the actor was caught in. Bella has a way of rubbing people the wrong way, and since she's faced so much backlash just in the last year alone, I feel like Netflix might pass her over for a little while. And finally, at number 1, Tyra Banks. Tyra Banks is actually a lot more controversial than you might think. Not too long ago, she faced backlash for her time on America's Next Top Model. Old photos and episodes re-emerged, which showed the types of photos that contestants were forced to take, including ones with the models in blackface. This made people take another look at the show's past, and it dug up more dirt on the way that Tyra used to treat her contestants as well. For a long time after the show, past contestants have been outspoken about the way that they were treated on the show and how their narratives were spun to make them look more susceptible to hate. Not too long ago, one of the models from Cycle 6, Lisa D'Amato, called Tyra out for how she used her past traumas against her and how she endured verbal, mental, and physical turmoil while working with Tyra. Now that all this has come out about her past, Hollywood might be staying away from Tyra, and her latest gig of hosting Dancing with the Stars might be all she's got to hold on to now that the world knows about what she's like behind the scenes, and since no one else will work with her. Maybe she could have started another fashion-related show on Netflix, but because of her reputation, the network probably would have passed on that.